It's a hard not life being a My Hero fan out here, and honestly it has been for at least the past couple years. Like, as much as I love this series and as much as I try to defend this series from the droves of undeserved slander that it receives from all corners of the internet, I'm not gonna lie, bro, at a certain point in time it did get kind of hard to defend. Seasons 1, 2, 3, Prime My Hero, that was easy work, bro. You couldn't tell me nothing about this show because as much as Deku was a crybaby and as cringe as the fan base could be sometimes, I didn't give a fuck, bro. You couldn't tell me nothing because at the end of the day, at that point in time, 2016 to let's say 2018, 2019, My Hero was peak, bro. My Hero was among the best of the best anime that you could watch at that time from a production quality perspective. And so, like, as much as niggas love to hate on my GOAT, at that point in time, there was a certain level of respect that the show commanded just off like clout and production quality alone. And obviously those things shouldn't really matter, right? At least not clout, I guess. Like, you'd think that a show's popularity wouldn't play that much of a role into its grander perception, but I mean, let's just keep it a full and honest stack right now, bro. Popularity is like the majority of what matters in most people's eyes. A lot of people start to like or dislike stuff because they see other people liking or disliking it. And that's not an inherently bad thing, right? It's just human nature, but I feel like My Hero got the short end of that stick. It became sort of the trend to downplay My Hero and shit on My Hero, and combine that with the fact that production quality was plummeting during COVID while a lot of its slightly newer contemporaries were pushing seasonal production quality to a whole new level that the game hadn't even ever seen. And yeah, you have the perfect storm of factors coming together to just really make being a My Hero fan a living hell. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying live in hell, by the way, okay? Studies show that being a 2021 My Hero fan was actually more painful than having COVID in 2021. Let that sink in. Anywho, some time has passed, right? 4 or 5 years have passed to be exact, and we're currently rounding the corner to the very end of My Hero Academia, the final season. We're on the home stretch for this series that has changed my life, and it is with great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, it is with immense joy that I announce to you, we are so back, bro. My Hero is so back, bro, and it is finally time for me to talk my shit again, bro. I've been waiting for this moment. Welcome back to Week Speak, the series where I speak about seasonal anime that I enjoyed watching this week. Oh, but Teddy, in the last Week Speak, you spoke about 4 different anime. Well, why are you only speaking about one anime right now? What's going on? Listen, bro, I'm still working out the bugs of the format. I'm still experimenting with what works, but the name Week Speak was too fire to just waste, and so I'm repurposing that shit. Anywho, for this installment of Week Speak, I want to talk about this most recent episode of My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia Season 8, Episode 2, because holy shit, bro. We are reaching Prime My Hero in terms of quality, bro. Dare I say, we are surpassing Prime My Hero in terms of quality. We are setting a new prime, and honestly, I haven't been this excited to talk about a My Hero episode in a good little minute, bro. Anywho, that's enough out of me. I think I probably set the stage and explained why I'm so excited to talk about this episode. And so, without any further ado, I need to come up with like some sort of like cool shit to say, like some sort of tagline I'm gonna say if I want to keep this Week Speak thing going. Let's Week Speak it. Yeah, no, that wasn't it. So this video is sponsored by 𝙏𝙠, but funnily enough, I actually personally used 𝙏𝙠 way before this partnership ever even happened, like a few weeks before to be exact. 𝙏𝙠 is a free website where you can search and compare high quality in-network doctors, choose the right ones for your need, and click to instantly book an appointment, from mental health to dentistry to eye care to skincare and everything in between. 𝙏𝙠 makes it easy to book in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers. With 𝙏𝙠, you can filter for doctors by insurance, location, and specialties, and see reviews verified by patients so that you can choose the care that's most convenient for you. About a month ago, I was running on fumes, right? I had been feeling drained, I was falling behind on videos. You know how All Might's eyes be like all sunken in and black and whatnot? Yeah, that's how I looked, bro. It was absolutely vicious. Eventually, one morning I sat down to like edit or maybe do some schoolwork or something like that, and yeah, I think I just sat there and stared at my computer screen for like 20 minutes getting nothing done before I finally realized that yeah, this was a problem that maybe I should see a professional about. Now, I had actually heard of 𝙏𝙠 through an ad not dissimilar to this one, and so I opened up 𝙏𝙠, visited their website, and within minutes, I had found a provider who was eventually able to help me with what I needed, and yeah, I've been a lot less groggy ever since. When you find the doctor you need that I did, you could see their actual appointment openings, choose a time that works for you, and instantly book your visit with just a few clicks. Plus, 𝙏𝙠 helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can score same-day appointments. No need to call the doctor's office and wait on hold and do all that stuff. 𝙏𝙠 lets you do everything online so that you can make a quick appointment. So if you've been putting off that appointment like I was, don't wait until you look like skinny All Might to go take action. Go to 𝙏𝙠.com/TeddySlump or click the link in the description to find a doctor that fits you today. Thanks again to 𝙏𝙠 for sponsoring today's video. And now, let's get back into it. So we pick up this video where we left off in our last episode. We are in the middle, actually we're probably closer to the end of this conclusive squabble between All Might and All For One. Now, before I get into the fight, let's just talk about the ramifications of this squabble, okay? This is the most important fight in My Hero Academia. And I'm not saying that from like an in-universe perspective, right? Obviously, in-universe, there's probably a bit more weight on Deku versus Shigaraki. Maybe, I mean, I guess you could argue either which way, but as a third-person omniscient observer watching this from the perspective of a fan in the IRL world, this fight right here is the fight, right? For one, it is the third fight in a trilogy of squabbles between these two that have left them both at a fraction of the strength that they once had. For two, right, or secondly, however you say that shit, the fight between Deku and Shigaraki isn't really even like actual real life beef, right? Like that shit's not really that personal to those niggas. What's really going on here is that the utter hatred and insanity from the beef between All Might and All For One, that hatred, that tension, that intensity was so strong between the two of them that it basically was too much for one lifetime, right? It was too much to just stay between two niggas, and so the beef basically trickled down from them two to their successors, and that's why Deku and Shigaraki are in deadlock right now as we speak. And then thirdly, and I think perhaps most importantly, the writing is on the wall for one of these niggas. There's like 10 episodes left in the series, including this one. Both of these niggas can't leave this fight with their life intact. One of them has to go, bruh. There will be no spin backs after this squabble. In fact, if you look at the way this fight has been set up for the both of them, the win conditions for All Might and All For One respectively have been set up in such a way that makes it pretty blaringly obvious that one of them is gonna die. All Might's win con is based on using All For One's new rewind quirk against him, right? Do enough damage to that nigga so that he has to rewind himself into like an infant or a fetus and then, you know, squish that nigga. I don't know. All For One's win condition is also pretty obvious, probably even more obvious and straightforward than All Might's win con. All that All For One really has to do is just kill All Might straight up. Just rip his arteries out of his chest or something. I don't know. There's like genuinely so many ways that All For One can win here. I'm like kind of surprised that he hasn't won already. I mean, I guess then again, the real fight we're actually witnessing here is All For One versus the toughest plot armor in the anime game, but you know, anime type shit. Anywho, we start this episode off with an All Might flashback, right? A rare and much appreciated peek into All Might's past, which gives us context into why he is the way that he is today. Why he is the forever #1 hero, in our hearts at least, because, you know, Endeavor technically, yeah. We see All Might's mom, who is, or was, you dig, like rest in peace to her. And as All Might is sitting with his mom, he's reading this little children's book, right? I think this children's book and the character on it, Anpanman, are like very famous in IRL Japan, and so I think that's just a cool little shout out to have in the episode, right? A cool little homage, if you will. But yeah, I just thought the scene was interesting, and I wanted to bring it up because, I don't know, man, it really does go to show how important it is to keep a little bit of that inner child in you, right? Like, we're learning that All Might, the greatest hero to ever do it, was driven by a degree of childish naivety, and it's like, yeah, that's a message, bro. In the next scene we cut to, we see All Might walking down this road, right? And as he's walking down this red brick road, these little lights start shining behind him, almost like illuminating the steps that he took on this path. Now, obviously, as of right now, we don't have the full scope of what this visual metaphor is representing, and so we're gonna have to wait a bit, but put a pin in that, bro. Remember this brick road, because it's gonna come up again later. But back to the scrap, right? So where we left off in the last episode, the hero killer Stain had just made his grand appearance into the battle between All Might and All For One. Stain had saved All Might's life by using his blood curdle quirk to paralyze All For One just before he killed All Might. And now that All For One is paralyzed, Stain and All Might try to take their opening and get All Might up out of there, right? All Might tries to take him from the front and Stain tries to take him from the back. You know, they're closing in on. Whoa, pause. Whoa, what am I cooking with this script, bro? Now, I knew when they started trying to jump All For One that this just wasn't gonna be the end, okay? Like, it didn't make sense to have hero killer Stain just randomly pop out of the cut out of nowhere and become the MVP of the show. And so I knew All For One was gonna cheese his way out of this predicament in one way or another. But holy shit, man, there was no way in hell that I could have foresaw the level of cheese that this nigga All For One was about to pull. To escape Stain's blood curdle, All For One proceeds to use a combination of two blood-based quirks. The first quirk that he uses is called Bloodlet. Now, Bloodlet, God knows how this nigga got such an insane quirk, by the way. But Bloodlet, from what I can tell, essentially lets All For One take every ounce of his blood that's in his body and just ejected. He can spray all of his blood out of his body in the goriest, nastiest, most disgusting manner possible. But yeah, after bloodletting himself, he proceeds to use another blood-based quirk called Antigen Swap. And what Antigen Swap essentially does is change his blood chemistry. It changes the antigens in his blood, which essentially rewrites his body. And so now he's basically pulled an out with the old and with the new. He's ejected the blood that Stain used to paralyze him and simultaneously rewrote the blood that's in his body so that the effects of Stain's quirk are no more. Now again, at first I thought this was the #1 all-time cheese maneuver, right? I was like, alright bro, what are the odds that All For One just so happen to have these two super specific quirks needed to work in tandem to counter Stain? But then All For One basically explains that he had antigen swap for a good minute, right? And that basically throughout his life he had used antigen swap on multiple occasions to like duck the Fed by constantly changing his blood type, thus never leaving any DNA evidence around. And so after hearing that, I was like, okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Was it still a cheese maneuver? Yes, absolutely. But at the very least, it was a believable cheese maneuver, right? Like, it was one of those rare ass pulls that actually kind of work once they're explained away. Anywho, after countering Stain for the one time, All For One does his due diligence to make sure that Stain won't ever get the chance to pull no bullshit like that again, right? He grabs Stain up and like beams this nigga through like 20 buildings, bro. Straight chucks this nigga half a mile through the city. Bear in mind, by the way, this is an otherwise unprotected regular nigga that he's chucking on some demigod shit. Like, I think at best Stain might have had some knee pads or some shit, maybe some compression shorts on under his shit, I don't know. But yeah bro, Stain isn't really the type of guy who's gonna be able to survive getting that ass beamed through 37 concrete pillars. I guess for the sake of at least giving Stain a slightly ceremonious death, the decision was made to not have him splatter in the Stain soup upon hitting that last building. But look bruh, it isn't long before Stain is turned into a red puddle of guts at the hands of All For One, who makes quick work of him not long after beaming him through the city like a Superman villain or some shit. Which, side note on this whole exchange, by the way, like the whole Stain death scene, I don't know if we're supposed to feel bad for Stain per se. Like, I don't really know what to make of his character in this scene as a whole, since we haven't really seen that much of him, at least, you know, not within the confines of this series. If you a Vigilantes watcher, you know what I'm saying. But honestly, the main thing I took away from Stain's death is that All For One must really be kind of stupid, bro. Like, actually genuinely mentally dumb, like a genuine pea brain, bro. A bird brain, bro. A nitwit. Nigga said nitwit. I say this because I feel like this past episode and a half is shit. The whole past season really has kind of made me forget that All For One is really like that when it comes to strength. Like, I feel like he's spending so much time playing with his food in terms of fighting All Might that I kind of forgot that he could just lethalize niggas in an instant. I mean, again, all things considered, he doesn't even have to be fighting All Might right now, right? Like, this was an entirely skippable cutscene for him, but man, that ego, bruh. Nigga let himself get rage baited into what may be his final battle, bruh. Like, is All Might an all-time list rage baiter? I think it might be time to engage in that discussion. Anywho, after Stain is pulverized into a stain, All For One immediately turns his attention back to All Might, and this time around, it seems like he's just about done with the fun and games. He tries to sneak All Might with this laser beam attack, right? I guess he was looking for somewhat of a get back when All Might air fried his ass with that big ass laser beam about an episode ago. But again, All Might's plot armor is probably even stronger than his One For All, and so before this laser can turn All Might into goddamn Stain 2.0, the last of his mech suit's protector shields spawn in out of nowhere and save his ass. It's kind of weird, right? This past arc or so I've become kind of attached to the mech suit, or like the sentient Hercules AI that All Might has been using in his car and all the rest of his gadgets and gizmos and whatnot. Like, damn, bro, I didn't expect the goddamn AI telling its user to live on and keep fighting to be a genuinely emotional moment, bro. Like, fuck type of chat GPT propaganda is this shit, bro? You don't have feelings. You don't give a damn if this nigga lives or dies. You're a machine, bro. Anywho, Hercules is able to buy All Might a bit more time, enough time to activate an anime flashback at least, and in this flashback, All Might is seeing his mentor Nana Shimura and his late friend Sir Night-Eye compelling him to get up, compelling him to find a bit more of that inner strength to keep fighting against All For One. All Might, somehow, through the grace of the Lord himself, is somehow not dead and is somehow still able to move his bones, which simply must be shattered at this point. And despite currently being in the physical state of a 94-year-old grandma in nursing home hospice care, he's still able to crank his head up a bit and let off that signature smile, letting us know that for All Might, this fight is not over yet. Now, like I said before, All For One, he's done with the games, right? For now. He's currently focusing on bigger and better things. As things stand right now, All Might is really nothing more than a roach on the ground to him, a little insect that's twitching with its last sliver of life just before it dies. And so instead of focusing on taking out All Might once and for all and just, you know, finishing the job for once, All For One turns his focus to Shigaraki and starts trying to enact his plan to take over Shigaraki's body, which I guess was his whole scheme from the very start. Like, I'm getting the vibes that he basically groomed Shigaraki into his perfect successor so that he could eventually use him as a vessel, which, like, yo, let it go, bruh. Like, you pushing 200 years old now and you're still out here trying to do the main villain thing, bro. It's time to pass the torch. It's time to let someone else wreak havoc upon the world, man. Your selfish ass. I never seen a nigga as selfish as All For One, bro. Anywho, Shigaraki actually stops All For One from taking over his body, which in a weird way kind of splits this final battle into 3 separate factions with 3 separate goals. Like, obviously we got Deku, Yue, and the heroes who really just want to stop Shigaraki and All For One and save the world. But now, after this little exchange right here, Shigaraki and All For One both seem to have their own things going on respectively. Like, I don't think they're really a team anymore, which, like, hey, to each their own, I guess, but y'all already didn't have the numbers on your side to begin with. Is it really smart to further isolate yourselves during this jumping that you've been receiving these past couple seasons? Then again, they got like 2 trillion quirks apiece, so you know, it kind of evens out. Regardless, since his plan to take over Shiggy's body isn't really working as intended right now, All For One decides to start bullshitting again. He decides to start wasting more time by toying with All Might's life. You see, All For One is really into optics, right? He's really into theatrics, if you will. He really wants the world to see All Might looking down bad. And so once again, instead of just killing the man outright, he decides he's going to make a scene out of All Might's death for the world to see. The first thing All For One does is pick up All Might by his leg and start flying around with his limp body so that the whole world gets to see their GOAT on 1 HP. He's basically taking a victory lap with All Might's corpse, right? He's parading around this body that's on death's doorstep because he can. Now this right here, this is some solid anime villain hate. 7 out of 10 anime villain hate. But the next thing that All For One does with All Might, I honestly think it might be setting a new standard for anime villain hate, bro. Like, I think we might have to put All For One in the all-time list conversation when it comes to haters, because this psychopath proceeds to let All Might activate his trump card. He proceeds to let the man damn near blow himself up, and then he's just like, nah, JK, you're dying on my terms, little nigga. Put that damn bomb away. Now peep the hate combo, right? All For One proceeds to disarm All Might's bomb. You see what I did there? Disarm, because it was like an arm bomb. Okay. Anyway, he proceeds to disarm All Might's bomb. Then he follows it up with using the blood curdle that he just stole from Stain to paralyze All Might. Okay, now he's getting fancy with the shit, getting poetic with the shit. And then now, with the whole world watching, All For One proceeds to lift All Might over his his head like Prime Bane did Batman. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't get much worse than this, bruh. He's about ready to give All Might the most embarrassing death in all of My Hero history. I think the way they showed the world's reaction to this scene was very interesting, right? Because we got to see several different levels of concern that people had depending on where they were in the world and how tapped in they were with the current situation. On one end of the spectrum, we had people like, you know, Deku, who was literally tearing up mid-fight, who was literally losing hope live during his own final battle with Shigaraki as he watched his beloved mentor, his hero, get humiliated before him. And then on the whole other end of the spectrum, we got to see a bunch of randoms across the world, right? A bunch of characters we've never really seen before, all with varying levels of concern, ranging from dread to mild concern to pure apathy regarding the situation that they were witnessing. I don't know, I just found that kind of acknowledgement of how different people react to different disasters to be, I guess, a pretty insightful addition to this final battle. Like, I really like how My Hero is choosing to focus on the world around the heroes during the final battle instead of just, you know, doing the typical anime thing and, you know, like closing off the final battle, only focusing on the perspectives of the heroes that we've been following around for the whole show. But anywho, just as the world starts to collectively lose hope, just as the world starts to reckon with the fact that they're about to witness the death of All Might, that they're about to witness the end of an era, an explosion rings off in the distance, and my GOAT, my favorite bully, super explosion murder god Dynamite is back in the mix, bruh. Back ready to They don't do it like that no more, bruh. They don't do it like that no more. Talk to them, Bakugo. It's at this point that we get to look back at the visual metaphor from the beginning of the episode, the one where All Might is walking down that red brick road with the lights behind him. But this time around, we see the second half of that metaphor, the half where Kid Deku and Kid Bakugo are running behind him, their lives being illuminated by the fluorescence of the light that All Might had set in place. And it's at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it's at this moment that the episode tells us that, yeah, it is the end of an era. All Might's era is over. But his era isn't over because he's dead and gone. Nah, we don't do that hopeless shit around here. All Might's era is over because the generation that his life's work inspired is here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.